Lately, I have been getting into reading. It is a very time-consuming hobby, but it's a lot of fun. Reading, first and foremost, is a form of entertainment, and like any kind of medium, that comes with a variety of genres. I'm a huge fan of reading fiction and fantasy books, so a lot of readers are going to scoff at my selections and tell me that I'm
wasting my time and I should focus on my reading non-fiction and learning about things and I don't know.
It's the kind of genre racism that is prevalent within the book community that goes something like this. The non-fiction reader will make fun of the person who reads only fantasy and fiction, and the fantasy and fiction readers will make fun of someone who reads romance and young adult, and the young adult and romance readers make fun of people who listen to audiobooks. It's a never-ending cycle of people trying to justify how they use their time, which is why, personally, I don't really judge people for what they read, nor do I make it a point to point out what other people read. Hell, right now I'm enjoying a book called Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is a genre called Dungeon Lit RPG. Now, this genre is not for everyone, okay? I know that. So I don't like to pass judgment on other people's reading habits. But with that said, there's like one genre that is very prevalent online, and I think a lot of you know it if you've clicked on this video. That genre is smut. For the layman and uninitiated, when you hear the word smut, you tend to associate that genre with romance. You would think those steamy covers you would find on your mother's bedside table were, smut. But that's not true. That's wrong. You're wrong. Maybe they were. I don't know. I don't know who your mom is. Both genres will focus on romantic endeavors in relationships, and they will probably contain some explicit scene written between two characters or more. I don't know what you guys are reading, okay? I'm just saying. Romance has erotic scenes, just like smut, but they're done to reinforce the romantic aspect of the story or create some kind of tension. With smut, though, there's no tension. There's no overarching plot or theme. It's constant erotica for the sake of erotica. Mind you, there's nothing wrong with consuming a bit of smut. Some of you carnal individuals out there have been doing it ever since fanfiction published the first supernatural Winchester. My God, I hate this so much. Let's not talk about that. You do it in secrecy. You do it in shame. Maybe a little bit of pride. Okay, maybe a little bit of pride. You take pride in it just a little bit, but you don't make it your whole personality. You don't advertise it to the world, okay? It's something you do. You admit to it, but that's it. It's not who you are. It doesn't define you. The same can't be said about Booktok, or more specifically, smut talk. Now, as someone who lives in the Middle East, I'm very familiar with the concept of censorship. Some of you Americans got to experience it for a day or two, and you ended up learning Mandarin somehow. Fair play. But I don't have access to TikTok, so everything I get from TikTok is funneled into Instagram Reels, and that app is racist. It's very racist. Now, Booktok on the surface is a community of like-minded individuals who talk about their favorite books in short bursts of content, which, as I explain, I'm beginning to realize it's a terrible way of discussing books, and that's probably why the main genre of books that go viral are like the smutty romance books. She opens up to her stalker about how lonely she's been since she lost her family in a car crash. He promises to get her pregnant. It's horrifying, not because people are so openly and brazenly advertising their pornographic tendencies like a Batman signal to all the other gooners, but because actually the contents of said smut is very problematic. Now, I've come up with a system of analyzing the level of smut you're about to encounter, and I call this system the hierarchy of literary gooning. You've probably seen these books on a few shelves. Colorful covers of hockey players and hot women with hot boys and hot mafia lads and whatnot. You can probably read this on a train without judgment. People will be fine with it. It's practically romance with a little bit more sexiness. Now let me just nitpick just a little bit, okay? Because I'm nosy and I want to learn everything about this topic, I went into a rabbit hole of looking into these types of books, and I discovered something about the online community that surrounds them that is pretty weird. Now, when you create an online community centered around smut, the most vanilla and tame kind of romance and smut will be the main books that are being passed around and consumed. But the problem is, because it's so acceptable to create a fandom around these inherently sexual books, the online community has to look for other ways of gratification after they got theirs. Now, one form of this gratification that I found online is people typecasting actual people as their literary crush. Booktok community will find a random man around and pretend like he's a character from the book that they like. This has been done to many bikers and to many hockey players. What is the obsession with hockey players? Why do you guys think hockey players are hot? Now, it can all be fun and games if the person leans into it and actually, you know, acts like this guy.
When's the last time you got someone to... And I'm like, statistically?
Now.
That's fucking cringe, man. But a lot of people actually do get kind of uncomfortable when it happens to them because they're not asking for that. I'll give you an example. There was a hockey team that went viral on TikTok because of a content creator who was involved in the Booktok community.
I'm trying to arch my back. Come on, Martin. Yeah, I like that. What's a sister gotta do to get a hockey ball?
And in a beautiful moment where corporate greed meets unbridled lust, the hockey team saw this content creator, saw that the post had went viral, and they played into it, inviting said horny content creator to come and watch the match live.
I think y'all understand just how excited I am to see these stretches.
Now, what this person did was they went and harassed all the players there.
I'm happy to see my husband. I'm happy.
Now, this level of attention and acceptance from the team made it so the community thought it was acceptable to constantly sexualize these players. That is until one of the wives of the players came out with a statement condemning everyone and saying, stop sexualizing him. He's a person. He's a human being. Now, this got a lot of attention, and the corporation tucked his tail like it always does and ran away, leaving the content creator to face all the backlash and taking zero accountability for some reason. You guys should have been mad at the fucking team, by the way. That's basically the extent of how bad this level of smut can make people. It gets worse. It gets worse. Imagine 50 Shades of Grey, but on crack. This level of smut is harmless if you don't go around advertising it, but that's not what happened. That's not why we're here. People are talking about it very explicitly and loudly. During my long hours of consuming endless filth, I stumbled upon a certain trend where the male love interest is kind of always an asshole. Now, that's not to say that people can't fantasize about assholes. Wait, no, that sounds wrong. That people can't fantasize about dickheads. Wait, that also sounds wrong. That people can't fantasize about rude people. Here's an example. Suspect likes to kidnap and force people to marry him. That doesn't sound very romantic to me. Here's a problem. There's an endless sea of romance books that often feature an aggressive, possessive, angry mafia guy who's gonna be mean to the entire world, but is gonna be so nice to the main little helpless petite main character, and it's exhausting. Gets choked for the first time during makeup sex with the mafia boss and thinks he's trying to kill her, not get her off. Why are you reading this? It follows lazy tropes. It doesn't seem like it's gonna flip the genre on its head. Not that I expect it to. It's mainly written to satisfy a need, which is fine, but I'm just kind of concerned that people are openly bragging about these sexy excerpts from the book when they don't sound sexy. They sound really cringe, and it's just so strange. Why would you want someone to kill you? Now you might be asking, what the hell did you mean by werewolves? Now let me tell you, if you are into these kinds of books of the f***ing possessive, angry, insane man, you will get bored of it pretty quick, because my algorithm thought I got bored of it. So they gave me something so much worse. They gave me
Monster fucking.
Now, there's a trend in smut fiction where the love interest is a monster, and usually the most generic one is werewolf. Now, I could talk about other types of monsters that I have come across, like the were-turkey, but let's keep it PG, okay, kids? Now, in this evolutionary genre, you have to understand certain mechanics to understand the world you're getting into. I stumbled upon a werewolf reel, and I was like, what does this mean? I say this because I was freaking lost, man, and I had to look it up. And the things that I found are kind of crazy. Let me just back up and explain one of the mechanics right now. There's something called alpha, beta, omega dynamics. God, I hate that I'm talking about this. Which is basically a social structure in the werewolf hierarchy that dictates which character is more dominant than the other. And from my light reading and researching, I've come to discover is basically an excuse to create unbalanced power dynamics and play into a fantasy where the alpha has dubious consent with the beta or whatever. As far as I can tell, it's something that's very prevalent in the werewolf genre. It makes for some pretty weird, albeit funny readings. When the alpha werewolf hears about your scars, you're about to undress when he bursts into your room. He heads right for you and demands, "Show me." This is so cringe, man. I can't do this. You try to push him away, but his hand only tightens. He stares at your stomach, at your scars. Who did this to you? He growls. See what I mean? See what I mean? This is not good. I'm telling you, its biggest sin is being cringe. Granted, I've never read more than this surface level advertising for the book. It could be good. I don't know. Well, you know, a lot of these mechanics tend to serve a fetish that people have. And there's like other terminologies here that exist called fated mates, which is also something that makes for dramatic and sexy tension. It's like when two people are fated to be with each other. So it kind of gives an excuse for the writer to make one of the parties be really aggressive about it. Your mate could be any one of these males. You don't get to pick. Fate has decided and you have to take it. Ultimately, I think the genre is about exploring forbidden romances, which has always been a thing in literature, but I just wish it was better written and better advertised than whatever the hell this is. The Omega will be given to his enemy if I reject him. I gasp, crying emoji. The gorgeous wolf shifter meets my gaze. I know I'm not perfect, but please claim me. This is how it's advertised. Oh my god, dark romance. What can I say about dark romance? This is where shit hits the fan.
This is where things get disturbing, so strap in.
You see, there's a growing market for this niche, which I don't understand why. People are demanding for their spice to be mixed in with darker elements. I did not know what I was getting into when I read the word darker elements, because apparently darker elements means crimes. There are crimes being committed in these books. I looked at the prime example that people often cite and people often praise as the golden standard for dark romance, and that is Haunting Adeline. This whole book should be a trigger warning, okay? If your friend openly reads it or recommends it, call the police on them, okay? Call the police right now. It's a story about a girl who falls in love with her stalker. Bad enough, right? That's bad. That's pretty bad. But also, it has a lot of non-consensual elements in it. Pretty horrible. Pretty horrible, okay? Big trigger warning. Big trigger warning. There's one scene, one chapter where the protagonist does things with his love interest using a gun. I'm not gonna say any more. You wanna look it up? Look it up yourself. I find it to be very icky, okay? While I was writing the script for the video, I had to actually rush this section because my feed started to look like a serial killer's feed. When he locks her in his basement and won't let her see her daughter until she says yes to marrying him. Isn't that lovely? It got to a point where I actually saw women thirsting over gore. I'm gonna show you, but people were like jacking off over the idea of somebody doing things to holes in the human body that should not be explored. Someone was someone's eyeball. After exploring these communities long enough, I can tell you safely that most of the content that's being consumed is actually very tame. It's not whatever you've heard just a second ago. It's fine. It's not as crazy as people think it is. But that kind of content is kind of a gateway drug into the darker ones. And I say that because I started by sharing a bunch of funny, cringy romance books with my friends, and my algorithm thought I was liking those videos, so they kept giving me more and more, and then I ended up in the weirdo section. So yeah, you know, that's my hypothesis. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what happened to me, and that's why I'm covering it. Be careful where you venture into when you explore these communities, because online genres are often defined by their audiences, which is unfortunate. It's not how it works, but that's what happens. And the smallest minorities can be the loudest and paint the whole community in a terrible brush. And all I have to say is that's not the case with Booktok. It's not what people think it is. I think it's completely fine for the most part, but you could accidentally venture off into whatever the fuck this is. Her over her father's desk in a ghost face mask. She doesn't know it's him. Anyways, stay safe, read well, and read often, and like and subscribe. Thank you.